Hey, I want to do something to kick off this episode that I just think will be fun. So I'm going to share my screen with you real quick. And I have a question for you. You know, I've been kind of enamored. Is enamored the right word? I don't know. We'll figure out if that's right. I've been intrigued by this whole electric car movement. There are but I also know that you're a truck guy, or you'd like to be. Well, I guess you can be a truck guy without owning a truck, but it's kind of a fraud, but whatever. So
that's really strong.
Just kidding. I want to know today, as of today, Nikola Corp came out with their truck, which is this new truck company that literally I might IPO even before there is a product in market. I don't know how that works, but who knows? So there's 3 trucks on the market, and I want to get your take on which one you would want based off of the look and maybe some like high level stats. Okay. We're going to kick this episode off a little bit different. It's still tech related because most of these things are pretty techy. Up on the screen, we have option number 1. That is the Tesla Cybertruck. It is the post-apocalyptic, armored, bulletproof
Asgardian spaceship.
Yeah, totally. You can, take a sledgehammer to the window and it'll probably break, and then you'll have to make excuses for why it did break. But supposedly it shouldn't. 0 to 60 in like 6 seconds. So it's got some get up and go. Solar panel roof to keep the electricity going. It's got like a full like armored back end. And it looks like it should be
armored, like actually armored.
Well, like there's a metal sheet that covers the bed, like through like a track that comes down, and you can like get up on top of it and like jump on. I mean, it's well protected for all your precious cargo. Range is about 250 miles with their battery. Rear wheel drive. That's about all I'll really need to share. So that's option number 1.
Okay.
What's your gut response to the Cybertruck? I'm just curious. We haven't really talked about that.
Weird.
Yeah, I figured you would say that. That's okay. I appreciate it. I feel somewhat the same way, but my designer soul wants to say it's cool. I don't know if it is actually cool. It's just different.
It's something you drew when you were in like 3rd grade. Hey, this is what I think
the future
cars might look like.
Yeah. Or this is because I can't actually remember the proportions of an actual vehicle. I'll draw this instead and put some wheels on it.
Yep.
Okay, good. Option number 2, Rivian R1T. The R1S, I prefer the SUV just because I'm an SUV guy, but the truck on the left there. What's the stats? I didn't look up the stats. Do we have stats? No, we don't have stats. Here, hold on. Let me click.
Oh, there's got to be stats on there.
One, this thing is like made to go forever. It's 400 miles plus, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. So twice as fast acceleration. It's got a like quad motor system, so it can literally churn each wheel independently. So you can do like a zero turn.
4-wheel drive.
Yeah, no, but you can do a 0 turn radius. Like you could sit in one spot and it would turn just like on a dime, literally. Because each wheel, kind of like you have like one of those riding mowers that, the wheels can turn this way and it just turns you. You can do that. It's cool. It spins just in one spot. It can go basically underwater. It's really powerful. But what's your gut say about that vehicle?
It's at least better looking.
Yeah.
For sure.
The headlights are a little weird though, right?
Yeah, they look like a
cartoon character.
Their eyes.
I want to like them, and this has been my favorite so far because it's just I love what Rivian's doing. I think that they're trying to grow a cool company. 3rd option, the Nikola Badger. It's such a terrible name.
It's a better name. I mean, come on, Badgers are tough.
2.9 seconds, so 0.1 seconds faster than the Rivian. I don't know. Oh, you know what? It's different though. Is this isn't electric? It's a hydrogen.
Oh, okay.
So it's
I don't know anything about that.
About hydrogen, yeah. So hydrogen is like a fuel cell, so it only puts off water as its exhaust.
Okay.
So you would fill it up with hydrogen gas, basically,
Interesting.
or maybe it's liquid hydrogen. I'm not exactly sure. But they're touting. I feel like this looks like you. You like this. I feel like you will like this
It
better.
at least looks like a truck.
Well, I mean, it looks like a Ford Ranger or a Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah. It looks like a cool looking truck. Yeah.
Well, okay.
I mean, I like it the best out of, it's by far better than the Tesla.
The Tesla's so weird.
It's just, I mean, I don't even know if I would call that a truck. I mean, I look at it and it's a really long, flat sedan.
I feel like you'd have to be like a rapper or something to be able to pull this off. Like, just you gotta be
Batman.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if Batman was real,
I mean, look at those tires. That's totally Batman.
that's true. All of them kind of have these weird hubcaps, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So
at least that looks like something I've seen on the road.
Well, right. I mean, they've modeled theirs off of a 2019 model truck.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing I will say is that at least the Cybertruck and the Rivian are trying to do something different. Like they're trying to push us into potentially what's next in vehicles, rather than just saying, "I'm going to make an eco-friendly truck that looks like every other truck."
I find it hard to determine what's next in cars because before you know it, the next one's out, and you're like, "Oh, that's a new body style," and then I go about my day.
It's incremental for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but I think these are trying to say like, can we push us over the edge?
Mm-hmm. And over the edge is sometimes really bad. Like you know, oh, has that person? Oh yeah, they've gone way over the edge.
Yeah, and if they don't have a wingsuit on,
or a parachute,
yeah. But I think where the transition I was trying to make there is that sometimes you gotta experiment. You gotta push yourself, give yourself some time to try new things. Maybe it's
Absolutely.
not a great transition, but
I like it.
I'd use that. Over the last few episodes of the podcast, we've been talking about the framework. We've been talking about product teams. We've been talking about postures and disciplines and structures and adaptive loops. The culture of what is included in innovation and technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think today, what I'm excited to talk about is how to potentially make space to learn and to grow and to push your team and allow them to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Carving out time.
Yeah, carving out time away from the normal day-to-day to do something unique. And I think that's kind of where I'm going at. That I think these companies are trying to carve themselves away, do something unique. That then what you're going to find is it's going to influence the entire market. So Tesla has totally, every car manufacturer now is trying to build an electric car to catch up with Tesla, right?
Right.
But it's because they carved themselves away. They had to. They pushed innovation to the next level, and I think creating that time for that is super important.
Mm-hmm.
We've mentioned this before, but we do that through something called Lab Fridays. So I thought we'd take an episode and maybe talk through what is Lab Friday, where did it come from, how to get started, and then what has it done for us? What is it? What has it created for our team, for our company? I get more like intrigued looks when I say, "Here's what Crema does. Here's what we serve," and then, "Oh, by the way, we do these fun things called Lab Fridays," and they're like, "Ooh, tell me more about that." So I thought I'd tell people more about that.
I love it. A little trip down memory lane, if you will.
Yeah. So Dan, take us back. Where did we start with Lab Fridays? Where was the first Lab Friday idea incubated?
So there we were in the office. Okay. No, I was going to try to do like in story form. I know. No.
Can we put a background track on that?
It was, I think, April of 15.
I knew you would know the date. That's so awesome.
Well, I looked it up before we started.
Oh, okay. Wow. You should have just.
But it did confirm. So I was thinking that. So I was confirmed.
You never cease to impress me. Yeah.
Anywho, I think we wanted to try something similar to what Google was doing at the time. which was
Yeah.
kind of their 80-20 model.
Explain that. How are they
Mhm.
thinking about the 80-20 model?
And it's really highly used now. It's not, I mean, it was pretty unique and forward thinking at the time, but 80-20 meaning your employees, your team working on their normal projects or products for 80% of whatever the work week is. So, 40, if it's 40, they're working 4 days out of 5. And then the fifth day is one where they get to experiment with, dot, dot, dot. It could be, if you are in software or any bit of technology, it could be tech trends that you're seeing. So it could be a new language or framework. If you're in the hardware space, maybe you're testing out something you can do with a Raspberry Pi, or some level of interaction between the internet, software, and hardware.
Yeah.
For Google specifically, that's where a lot of the things we use now came from. I think Gmail came from there.
Yeah.
I think maybe even Calendar came from 80-20, and
I think Maps originally came from it as well.
And so the goal is giving your team space to think and, again, read. One, obviously you want people to learn and get better, but two, the hope is that if they have that time to carve out and free their mind a little bit, new innovations might come up. Because I think what we found is, if you, and I probably say this way too much, but if someone were to point a finger at me and say, I want you to go innovate, I probably wouldn't be able to. And I think that
innovate right now. Just do it.
Be
innovative, right? Exactly.
And it could be, custom or unique to that person. But my hunch is that if you ask anyone, any team, to go innovate, it's just really difficult, because the cliche of that, the mother of all innovation is necessity,
right?
And I think when you give people the freedom to kind of step away from their day to day and exercise part of their mind that they maybe haven't recently, I think necessity comes up, new and fresh ways of thinking comes up. And so all that to say is that our first attempt at this is what we would call Innovation Lab Week.
Mm-hmm.
And in April of 15, we carved out a full week, which was really difficult, by the way, because we had to
stop all work for a week. Yeah.
We had to tell all of our clients, okay, we're going to stop work for a week to try this new initiative, which at the time was more of a cultural play than anything.
Uh-huh. How big were we then? Like 8 people?
Oh, 8. Yeah.
You're pretty small. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't even remember how we did it. I think maybe we voted on an idea. I think everyone came with one. Did. I think we voted. And we ended up voting on an idea called Plaster, which, George, I'll let you explain here in just a second. But again, carving off a week, wanting to free our minds and give, just explore new possibilities with the idea of creating essentially a new startup or product that's been validated by the end of the week. And so we started on Monday, and then on Friday, we brought people in. I think we grilled out some brats or hot dogs, or I don't know. We just
filmed the whole thing. That was probably one of our first videos.
Right. Yeah. And so that was Innovation Lab Week. So that was our attempt to kind of do our 20%. But anyways, so we did Plaster, which you probably remember better what Plaster was. I mean, I could kind of tell you what it was. It's kind of like it's almost like a QA content. It was basically putting content into something.
Yeah.
So you can test it easily.
The best way that I think, like if you have a password manager, right, that auto fills your passwords for you, think of this as like the test content manager.
Right.
So you would go and fill out a form. Like if we were testing a big product and it had, a series of like 100 form inputs. Well, every time you needed to go through and test that, it would just take forever to do it. And so you would fill it out once. In the browser, the JavaScript would catch what you were filling out. It would save that information and say, oh, cool. Do you want us to fill that out every time? And you could then say, cool, autofill, and it would do it over and over again.
Right.
I was going to say, do you want to pause?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So we took that And we did. We built it in a week. And I think it was also inspired for us as well by Startup Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We have both been involved in some way. Startup Weekend was a client for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
I had done at least a couple startup weekends where it was the idea of can you build out an idea within 54 hours, so a 2 to 3 day time frame, starting on a Friday night, ending on like a Sunday, I think it was, that
Mm-hmm.
you pitched your final product. Startup Weekend pivoted quite a bit towards most people weren't actually trying to build a product. They would just put together a pitch over the weekend. But early days, it was like, man, let's stay up all night for 3 days in a row and see if we could build something.
Right.
And, most of those ideas didn't really go anywhere, but we thought it did inspire you, and it forced
Mm-hmm.
you to think within a different set of constraints that we don't normally have to think within our clients. There is relatively zero risk during that week, other than the fact that, of course, we're turning off client work. It is pure exploration, creativity, and try to build something fast.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we didn't stop there. We had to kind of figure out the best way for it to work. So we realized, okay, a week at a time is a little too much. So what else could we do? So we kind of pivoted this model to where it wasn't every other Friday. I think we chose specific Fridays throughout the year. It was maybe 4. I want to say it was quarterly. I'm not for
I
sure.
don't even remember that. We had I guess there was an interim. That didn't last very long, though.
No. And then we finally went to what we do now, which is called Lab Friday, which is every other Friday.
Yeah.
And this method works really well because it's built into our model of how we build products for our clients anyways, to where if we have a specific hour work week, which we do, we can fit all those hours into 5 days one week, 4 days the next week, and then hopefully, depending on how things fall,
Mm-hmm.
our team can take off that next Friday to focus on, again, learning, educating themselves, new frameworks. And it's really been great because we've had some of the research and the testing and just kind of playing around that have done led us to actually now building in a framework that's what we build in.
Mm-hmm.
One of our clients, we were working on a mobile app, and one of our developers said, I'm going to try rebuilding it, most of it anyways, in a language that I've been working on during Lab Friday. And over the Christmas break, he ended up doing that. He rebuilt most of it in a new framework, and we still use that framework now. And so would we have found that framework? Sure, probably.
I mean, the industry,
but we're pretty early.
Yeah,
I would say we were pretty early moving into at least in our region.
It wasn't even open sourced at the time yet, or wasn't
Right.
MIT license open source. So there was still some risk of like, should we be using on this in clients? Because will Facebook, take it and react?
Right.
And I think that's key. We know we have to be measured in the risks that we take with clients on what we can and can't do on a client project to experiment and to learn and to grow, instead of using something that's relatively tried and true that we're familiar with and we're going to move forward with. And that's great, except for technology is changing by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Principles are pretty much the same. Even development principles are pretty much the same, but how can we experiment with some of these newer things that are coming out, whether, for a while for us, it was TypeScript, and then it was GraphQL or things like that. How do we start to explore things that could help us in our day-to-day work, but are a safe place to break things, to try to fail, and the failure isn't as risky as it would be with a client project itself. Right. Now, once we prove it out in that Lab Friday space, we oftentimes turn around and almost immediately say, hey, client, want to learn this new thing? You want to try this new thing that we just figured out? Could be huge, and it could be beneficial for you, and you'll be a first mover. And that often clicks in pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are probably, I think, in our third year of the current version of what Lab Fridays looks like. And we've gotten it down pretty good to a really good format and a really good just consistent schedule of what that looks like.
Yeah.
And so, if you were to walk into Crema and it was Lab Friday? First off, good for you. You walked in
Yeah.
on the best
Oh,
Friday.
well,
I mean, in my
now you have
opinion,
to walk into everybody's houses because we're remote, but yeah.
right? That would be weird.
What are you
But
doing?
anyways, if you
Yeah.
were to walk into Crema when
Yeah.
we were there, you would see three main things as far as the format of Innovation Lab or Lab Friday. And the first one is the kickoff, and that's where we all go around and we talk about what we're going to do today, what we intend to learn. We ask if there's anyone available to help.
Yep.
So if someone is working on maybe even a new app, testing out a framework, and they need a software engineer or someone else that has a specialty in another skill that they need, they might say, hey, I really could use a designer
Mm-hmm.
to help mock up the UI for what I'm working on. Does anybody have availability? And so there's
Yeah.
almost like a call or a request for help, which is really cool to see, because it gives those individuals who may be coming to Lab Friday with a little bit of an idea of what they want to do, but are fairly open. And it's like, oh, I can help there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that collaboration. So we go around and we do that. Some people will still have to work on client work. That's just the nature of the beast,
Yep.
and we want to make sure we serve our clients well and serve them first. So sometimes we have to wrap up some things
Yeah.
we
It
maybe
drips
didn't
in.
get
Yep.
to. Mm-hmm. And then we used to, again, typically do lunch. We would bring lunch in for everyone, and it's just a time, again, to pause from work, come have some, we try to rotate different restaurants and cater in different things
Mm-hmm.
so that it's kind of just celebratory.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, culture building. And so that's fun. Sometimes we would do lunch and learns. We tried to pare those back a little bit to give people even more time to work.
Yeah. Because a lot of people wanted to keep jamming
Mm-hmm.
even over lunch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then around 4 o'clock, we start demos, and that's where we demo if whatever someone's worked on. We do a demo of, if they read something or wrote a blog post, they might give us the gist of what they wrote. If they took a tutorial or went through a class, they might say, "This is what I got through today." If they worked on something from an engineering standpoint, they might demo that.
Mm-hmm.
We also have our venture lab teams demo, but we'll get to that later.
Yep.
And but it's just a time from 4 to 5 o'clock to where people can share with and demonstrate what they worked on. And there's a lot of goodness to that. One of the main things is that it just allows people to kind of like, hey, kind of show and tell.
Yep.
This is what I worked on today,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I want everyone to know about it. But it also furthers just that idea of learning. It allows people to teach. It allows people to, and not necessarily always teaching, but if I'm able to share with you what I did, it might give me a new or fresh idea for the next Lab Friday when I continue to work on it,
Yeah.
or how I might implement it in a client project next week. Because again, I've had to talk about it out loud, and just that process of communicating and sharing what's going on in my brain so I can get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't help me, just talking and processing out loud, it's like, oh, I just connected a dot on my own because I've been talking through it.
Yeah. And we've kind of been talking through how it applies to technology teams, or maybe developers specifically. But what's really cool is like every single craft, because we have kind of each of the crafts of our product teams, right? Each craft they'll experiment with it in different ways. So I know the product managers they'll take Lab Fridays and they'll create templates for like kickoff sessions or templates for retrospectives, or they'll go try to, unlock one of the new features of Jira, or maybe they'll try out a totally new product management tool. And this is why we've gone through so many product management tools. I know we're looking at different ways to take notes, different way to share information and documentation. And that a lot of those experiments, a lot of that exploration is freed up during that lab Friday. And it's cool because again, the designers, it's like we primarily have shifted to Figma away from Sketch, anybody knows I was a huge Sketch fanboy, but it was on Lab Fridays that they started to explore like, hey, one designer's using Figma and they want to show it off. So they all sit together and they kind of jam on what they might be able to do with Figma. Okay. Well, can we start using Figma for clients? Yes, sometimes, no, sometimes, but like having that space to explore has been really powerful. Sometimes we see people write blog posts on those days. So they want to create content, and by creating content, they're kind of having to learn more. They have to explore a little bit more, and then they kind of land that plane on a Lab Friday and say, "Cool!" And I wrote a blog post about it. It's that, and just generally, it's a really fun day. It's cool to see the team get excited about it. With client work, there's times when someone will get pulled away, but even the team will go like, "I know you're working on client work, but I do want to include you in some way, whether it's a user test or just picking their brain on something, just to make them feel like they're part of the camaraderie of the day."
Right.
You mentioned something earlier, Dan, that I think is key, though, that if a company's wanting to do this, you have to think holistically about the amount of time that your team's working, right? If your team puts in a 40-hour week, we base our time basically off of a 42-hour week. So we're not working 50, 60, 100-hour weeks. It's 42 hours primarily, and there's ebbs and flows of that. But we require of the production teams that we be looking to bill 35 hours a week. So our clients know that our teams are dedicated based off a 35-hour week. Okay, well, there's a 7-hour deficit there. And so that 7-hour margin is where we can start to, we do normal Crema continuous learning or, workshops, other things outside of Lab Friday. But on that Friday, that 7 hours plus maybe borrow a few hours from the week before, but carving that out, it's not really that hard. There are seasons when it's hard because we're really busy, but I think we've been really surprised at just by making the decision and kind of setting us as leaders saying this is something we believe we need to do and we're going to do. It happens. And then once you create a discipline and a rhythm in it, they get used to it. And, you plan your client interactions based off of, hey guys, just FYI, this is a Lab Friday week. That means that we're only going to be available Monday through Thursday. So Friday, we'll let you, or on next Monday, we'll let you know how it went. And sometimes clients are like, cool, tell us what you build,
Yeah.
What
you
are
have to
some
build it into your model.
Yeah. And I guess maybe I'm kind of already pointing out some of the solutions there, but what are some other challenges to making a Lab Friday successful? Or what are other things that we come up against that maybe it gets lost a little bit, its purpose?
I think you mentioned two of them. It was just around client work and then structure. If it's not structured, then you'll continually not do it simply because client work takes over. And again, if you're in the service-based company, clients should be primary.
Yeah,
but
of course.
If R&D, education, continuous improvement are values, you can do both. You just have to build it in. And so that's where it takes intentionality and building it into your structure.
Yeah.
For me, I think one of the other biggest challenges is the balance between wanting to know, are we being successful in it?
How do you measure it?
Yeah. How do you measure? Are we being successful? Is success simply that we provide it and it allows people to learn and that's it?
Right.
Which is totally fine.
Sure.
Honestly. I mean, or is it that, and you also want to give some level of, measurement to yourself. So like, okay, the time's being spent really well.
Yeah.
This is really leading to something. So it could be, and it's not like you have to have a specific metric, but you could say that we want at least one time a quarter for something we've learned in Lab Friday to be used in a client project, either a new framework or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's easy. That's an easy thing to do. Or we would love to have content around tech trends come out like one piece per month, and that be worked on, not only experimented with in Lab Friday, but also written on and then pushed out from a marketing standpoint.
Totally.
So there's a lot of things you can do to say success for us with an innovation lab type structure within your company. There's so many different ways to measure it. And again, it doesn't have to be hard and fast. It shouldn't be hours spent. As we all know that's not a measurement of success. It's just a measurement of time, literally. But if you want to measure outcomes, I mean, you can be as loose or you can be as tight as you want to. We prefer somewhere probably in the middle. Yeah. Of, are we necessarily measuring each thing that comes out? No, but we have a good idea as to as people continue to demo what they're demoing,
Yeah. Where's that going?
Yeah, where is that going? What's happening? Now, I would say we probably have a couple steps to get to the level of measurement we want to.
Yeah.
But what we've worked on is really setting the foundation of a consistent discipline, consistent rhythm, something that's permanent, so to speak, in our culture.
Yep.
And if you can get that first, then metrics and measurement can come after.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest measuring, I don't know how to measure it, but one of the biggest outcomes is the culture it fosters.
Mm-hmm.
It puts people in a mindset that is, don't sit, or what am I trying to say? Not don't sit still, but like, don't get too comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume that we've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something to learn, always something to experiment with, always something to try,
Mm-hmm.
which is what's so fun about this industry.
Right.
And sometimes we're constrained as to whether or not we get to do that with our clients, but in this special space, go for it.
Right.
Right. And I think that attitude has gone a long way. I want more companies to actually institute something like a Lab Friday, something like an 80-20 model. Now, to be clear, Google has abandoned that 80-20.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's worked for them. They have a completely dedicated arm of or section of their company that's
right.
100% innovation work, like super secret, who knows what they're doing kind of work. I still think that, yeah, that's fine for the company as a whole, but there's something to be said for how it feeds or scratches that creative itch for the individual as well. And I'm sure they have other ways that they do that. But this is how we've applied it now, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. And it's blossomed into other pieces of it, which we'll talk about maybe in our next episode. But this has been one of the most important institutions we put in place inside of Crema that has really gotten the team excited culturally, professionally, and they brag about it quite a bit. And I think we get to show off quite a bit because of it.
Right. Yep. Yep. Agreed.
If you can put a Lab Friday in, put a innovation time into your schedule, and let us know how it goes. Give us a comment, drop us an email, hello@Crema or podcast. What is it? Podcast option 5. I think it's option 5 at crema.us. I think any one of those, we'll get it.
Google it.
Yeah.
We'll find it.
Yeah. So I think we're going to keep this one a little bit shorter because I think we just wanted to get out there and say, hey, these are some practical ways that we're attempting to be adaptive inside of our organization, that we're trying to innovate inside of ourselves, even as we help our clients innovate. And Lab Fridays is probably one of the core pieces that help us to do that. There's so much more we could talk about, and even some examples of that. If you go to crema.us/venture lab, that kind of touches on it. We'll touch more on what venture lab is specifically, but learn more about what we're doing there. Or if you Google innovation or venture lab, Fast Company, we published an article in Fast Co that it's all about us doing this time and how important it's been to our organization. So you can check out more there. This has been fun.
Love it. Love Innovation Lab.
Yeah, Cybertruck, not my pick. I'm with you on that, Dan. I want to like it, but it's not.
Give me the Badger.
You look like a Badger. I mean, you look like a Badger truck guy. That's
okay. Great clarification for all those listening out there.
As always, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Option 5. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and give us a review. Option 5, you know what? We should be a little. I'm gonna start doing this. We used to do this, and I don't think we have the teams putting their recordings in at the end. I've noticed on the last few, I think we got through most of the staff. I don't think that we say that Option 5 is by Crema.us or Crema. We're a digital product agency. Let's be honest, guys. The whole reason we're doing this podcast is so that you know that Crema's cool and that you should hire us to do your digital transformation and build your products, right?
We'd love to work with you.
Yeah. So if you're
like people,
if you're trying to innovate inside yourself, if you want to build more innovative teams inside your company, if you want to design and prototype your ideas and turn them into real solutions, that's what we do. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. Give us a call.
Have a conversation.
I'll give you my phone number. Not really.
No, you probably won't do that.
Nope.
You don't really do the sales either. So that's good. No, but let us know if we can help in any way. As always, thank you for listening, and be sure to share this with your nephews, your second cousin-in-laws. Is that a thing? Second cousin once removed, twice
Sure.
removed? Yeah.
Yep.
And your neighbor 2 houses down, not the next door neighbor, not the one right next to you, 2 houses down, because you probably don't know that neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that you go, I know the people right next to me, but I don't know 2 houses down.
Or you might know the name of one person that lives there, but not the other. And you're like,
yeah.
That's,
So here's your challenge. Go tell the significant other or somebody else in that household that you don't know their name. Say, hey, you, I can't remember, husband or wife of person I do remember.
Do you listen to podcasts?
Do you listen to podcasts? Do you want to build an innovative team inside your organization? Option 5.
Listen to these guys.
Until next time, Dan.
See you, George.
My name is Neil Dierkaz, and I'm a senior developer at Crema. As a developer, I am an integral part of a project that turns requirements, strategies, and designs into those ones and zeros of a working application. On a daily basis and sprint by sprint, I work with project managers, strategists, designers, and testers to turn good ideas into a great solution that meets the needs of our clients. I enjoy working at Crema because as a developer, our core values give us the space to explore, educate, and innovate. We are a company of people, and Crema values that. With Crema's results-based culture, we have the freedom and trust to work how we need to in order to implement and achieve the results our clients expect. Option 5 is a podcast by Crema, a digital product agency that creates web and mobile apps for disruptive companies and industry leaders. We believe that design, technology, and culture can help create a world where individuals and companies thrive. Learn more at crema.us.